Jennifer Campbell walked into her 9-year-old daughter's pediatrician's office without knocking on the door and froze. Emma stood there, covered only with her medical gown, while Dr. Mitchell held a professional camera positioned directly for her. For 7 months, the girl wore long sleeves, even in the sweltering heat of the Oregon summer, hiding purple marks on her arms that she said were from routine checkups. That Portland mother didn't imagine that her decision to confront the doctor would reveal anything much more than professional negligence. But to understand how we got here, we need to go back a few weeks, when everything still seemed normal and safe. Jennifer Campbell was a dedicated 42-year-old nurse who worked at Providence Hospital in Portland. She had been living alone with Emma since their divorce 3 years ago, a separation that, though painful, had been necessary. Her ex-husband, Mark, was simply not there, always traveling for work, always too busy to build memories with their daughter. When he finally left home to live with his new girlfriend in Seattle, Jennifer felt more relief than sadness. She knew she could raise Emma on her own, and she would raise well. Emma Campbell was a 9-year-old girl full of life, with brown hair always tied up in an awkward ponytail and green eyes that sparkled when she talked about animals. She loved to draw, spent hours with her colored pencils creating illustrations of dogs, cats, rabbits, and birds. Her dream was to be a veterinarian, to take care of injured animals, to give them a second chance. Jennifer encouraged this dream, took Emma to visit animal shelters on weekends, let her feed the ducks at Laurelhurst Park. Emma attended Riverside Elementary School, where she was a diligent student, especially in science. She had few close friends, was a little shy, but Jennifer saw this as a gentle trait, not a problem. Dr. Stephen Mitchell was the most respected pediatrician in the Portland area. Her office was on Oak Street, in a modern 3-story medical building with an aquarium at the reception that Emma loved to observe before appointments. He had been serving families for 15 years, was known for his patience, for never rushing appointments, for really listening to parents' concerns. Several mothers in the neighborhood enthusiastically recommended him at school meetings, in WhatsApp groups, in casual meetings at the supermarket. He was that doctor that everyone wanted for their children. What started as routine appointments turned into a silent nightmare that Emma carried alone, trying to protect her mother from a truth that even she didn't fully understand. In this video, you'll discover how one mother trusted her maternal instinct even when everyone said she was overreacting. You'll see how small signs, which most would ignore, became the key to saving your daughter. Courage and determination can change everything in a matter of hours. Every detail here is based on real events, on a story that could happen to any family, in any city, to any doctor respected by the community. If you've made it this far, it's because real history interests you. Help this content reach more people. Leave the like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell. Jennifer woke up every morning at 6 in the morning. The routine was always the same, comforting in its predictability. She would go down to the kitchen, still in her bathrobe, turn on the coffee maker, and start making blueberry pancakes, Emma's favorites. The smell of fresh coffee and golden dough frying in the pan spread through the house, and little by little Emma came down the stairs, still sleepy, dragging her favorite blanket, the star-patterned one she had had since she was 5. They had coffee together, talking about the day's plans, about Emma's homework, about what books the girl was reading in the school library. After breakfast, Jennifer would drive Emma to Riverside Elementary, a red-brick school 15 minutes drive away, with a large playground and dedicated teachers. Emma always said goodbye with a tight hug and ran to meet her best friend Sophie near the swings. Jennifer then went to her shift at Providence Hospital, where she worked in the emergency department. It was a demanding job, long shifts, stressful situations. But she loved the feeling of making a difference, of saving lives, of taking care of people in their most vulnerable moment. This routine brought stability after the separation. It was a structure that Jennifer and Emma built together, just the two of them, without Mark's absent presence. Emma was always a healthy child, rarely sick. Perhaps the occasional flu in winter. Nothing serious. But Jennifer, as a nurse, knew the importance of regular checkups, up-to-date vaccinations, preventive medical follow-up. She kept Emma's appointments with Dr. Mitchell religiously, every 6 months at first, then more frequently as he recommended. Dr. Mitchell's office was only 10 minutes from home, in a modern medical building on Oak Street, surrounded by trees and with ample parking. The place had a professional but welcoming air. The reception was decorated with soft colors, beige walls and paintings with children's illustrations of forest animals. There was a play area in the corner with building blocks and coloring books, and that huge aquarium built into the wall, full of colorful tropical fish that swam lazily among aquatic plants. Emma could be mesmerized by that aquarium, pointing out the fish, inventing names for them. The clownfish was Bob, the blue surgeonfish was Marina, and so on. Dr. Mitchell always greeted Emma with a warm smile. He was a middle-aged man, perhaps 45 years old, grey hair on his temples, discreetly framed glasses, impeccably white lab coat, with his name embroidered on his pocket. He had a soft, almost fatherly voice, and a way of speaking to children that put them at ease. He asked about school, about Emma's drawings, about his favourite animals. Jennifer appreciated this attention, this dedication that seemed genuine. The other mothers in the waiting room always commented on him. Susan, a mother of 2 teenage girls, said that Dr. Mitchell was a gift to the community, who had taken care of her daughters since they were babies. Karen, whose son had breathing problems, praised his patience as she explained everything in detail, never treated her parents as ignorant. Jennifer felt lucky to have found such a caring doctor, especially as a single mother, having to make all the decisions on her own, without a partner to share her worries with. Jennifer never imagined that cozy office, that respected doctor, those routine appointments hid something sinister. She trusted completely. After all, why wouldn't he trust it? He had impeccable credentials, years of experience, hundreds of satisfied families. When he started suggesting more frequent appointments to Emma, saying he wanted to closely follow her development during this crucial phase of growth, Jennifer just agreed. It seemed reasonable. It seemed like the kind of extra care a good doctor would provide. The first routine consultation after the summer took place in September. The intense heat of Oregon's summer was finally giving way to milder temperatures, and the trees were beginning to show shades of gold and red. Emma burst into the office that Thursday morning, talking about a science project at school, about how her class was studying the life cycle of butterflies. Jennifer walked her to the reception, greeted Deborah, the usual receptionist, a lady with short blonde hair who always had a mint to offer the children. Emma was called to the exam room about 10 minutes later. Jennifer stood in the waiting room, flipping through an outdated gardening magazine, not paying much attention to the words. 40 minutes passed. Jennifer looked at the clock on the wall, frowning slightly. Emma's consultations usually lasted a maximum of 20 minutes. She thought that maybe Dr. Mitchell was late. Maybe there was some complication with another patient before them. When Emma finally returned to the waiting room, she was different. Jennifer noticed immediately. The girl's eyes were red, swollen, indicating recent crying. She held her left arm carefully as if it hurt. Her face was pale, and she avoided looking directly at her mother. Jennifer felt her stomach tighten slightly, a vague restlessness she couldn't name. "Emma, is it okay, my love?" Jennifer asked, standing up and walking over to her daughter, gently touching her shoulder. Emma just nodded, a small, barely noticeable movement. She whispered in a hoarse voice that the doctor had done more thorough examinations, that he needed to make sure that she was growing up healthy, that it was normal, that all children went through this. Jennifer sensed something strange in that answer, but before she could ask any more, Dr. Mitchell left the exam room. His lab coat was impeccable as always, and he had that professional smile on his face. He explained in a calm voice that the new pediatric protocols required more detailed assessments for children at Emma's age, which was a crucial stage of development, that he wanted to ensure that everything was progressing properly. He said that Emma was healthy, that there was nothing to worry about, that they just needed to keep up with regular monitoring. Jennifer nodded, accepting the explanation. She was a nurse. She knew that medical protocols changed frequently, that new guidelines were constantly implemented. If Dr. Mitchell said it was necessary, then it was necessary. She thanked her, scheduled the next appointment for a month from now, and left the office with Emma. In the car on the way home, Jennifer tried to talk. He asked about the exams, about what the doctor had done, if it had hurt. Emma replied with monosyllables, yes, no, okay. I looked out the window, watching the houses go by, the gardens with autumn decorations, the pumpkins in front of the doors. Jennifer attributed the silence to tiredness. Maybe Emma was just hungry. Maybe she had had a hard day at school before the appointment. That night, Emma showered with the door locked for the first time. Jennifer was in the kitchen preparing dinner, pasta with tomato sauce and meatballs, when she heard the sound of the lock being turned in the upstairs bathroom. She paused, holding the wooden spoon in the air, frowning. Emma never locked the bathroom door. They have always had an open relationship, with no unnecessary secrets. Jennifer thought about going upstairs and asking, but decided not to make it a problem. Maybe it was just age, the growing need for privacy that girls develop as they approach pre-adolescence. Jennifer remembered herself at the same age, starting to close the door, wanting more personal space. It was natural, she told herself. During dinner, Emma ate little. He pushed the pasta across the plate, wrapped the strands of spaghetti around his fork, and then released them again, without bringing them to his mouth. Jennifer watched worriedly, but didn't want to press. She touched Emma's forehead, checking for fever, but her skin was normal, a regular temperature. Are you feeling good, my love? Jennifer asked in a soft voice. Emma forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She said she was just tired from classes, that she had had a lot of homework, that she wanted to go to bed early. Jennifer accepted the explanation, though something inside her whispered that there was more, something she wasn't seeing. What Jennifer didn't notice that night was the detail that would later haunt her. Emma was wearing a long-sleeved blouse, the one made of navy blue cotton with small white flowers. He was wearing long sleeves even with the heater on, even with the house warm, even though it was still a relatively warm September night. Jennifer didn't question it. He thought that Emma might be cold, that each person has their own sensitivity to temperature. If this revelation is arousing in you a deep curiosity about what really happened, comment right now, I want more stories, and please leave your like on this video. Appointments with Dr. Mitchell began to take place monthly, always with the same justification: monitoring the development, crucial phase of growth, ensuring that everything was progressing properly. Jennifer didn't question it. Other mothers in the waiting room commented on how attentive and dedicated he was, how he really cared about the children. Susan mentioned that Dr. Mitchell had detected a scoliosis problem in her daughter at the first signs, saving her from future complications. Karen said that he always returned calls, even on weekends, always available to answer questions. Jennifer felt gratitude for having found such a caring doctor, especially as a single mother, having to deal with everything on her own. When Mark called from Seattle, once a month if that, asking briefly about Emma, Jennifer would mention the appointments, and he would just mumble something about hoping that the insurance would cover it, showing no real interest. Jennifer stopped expecting any support from him. She and Emma were fine on their own, had each other, and had competent professionals taking care of them. Emma began to wear only long-sleeved clothes. September gave way to October, and temperatures in Portland were still mild, sunny fall days that didn't require heavy coats, but Emma always chose long-sleeved blouses, sweatshirts, cardigans. Jennifer attributed this to a phase of shyness. Perhaps Emma was feeling uncomfortable with her changing body, something common in girls of this age. Jennifer remembered going through something similar, the sudden self-awareness, the feeling that everyone was watching. Jennifer never forced Emma to change her clothes. He respected his daughter's choices. He wanted her to feel comfortable, to develop her own identity. If Emma wanted to wear long sleeves, she did. There was no problem with that. It was just a clothing preference, nothing more. In November, Jennifer noticed something peculiar. It was a Tuesday night, the eve of another appointment with Dr. Mitchell. Jennifer was in the living room folding freshly laundered clothes, absent-mindedly watching an episode of a medical series on television. Emma was in the room, supposedly doing her homework. Jennifer went upstairs to check and found Emma packing her backpack for the next day. The girl had separated her favorite long-sleeve blouse, the light pink one with a kitten print, and carefully placed it on the bed, smoothing the creases, adjusting the sleeves. There was an almost ritualistic preparation in it, an attention to detail that seemed excessive for a simple medical consultation. Jennifer watched for a moment from the door, intrigued. "Emma, do you like Dr. Mitchell?" Jennifer asked casually, entering the room and sitting on the edge of the bed, grabbing a t-shirt to fold. Emma froze. It was a very brief moment, almost imperceptible, but Jennifer saw it. The girl stood completely still, her fingers still holding her blouse, her body tense. Then she forcibly relaxed and replied in a low, almost mechanical voice that he was a good doctor, that everyone said that. The answer sounded evasive, different from Emma's usual spontaneity. It wasn't the response of a child who genuinely likes someone. It was a rehearsed, careful response, as if Emma were repeating words she had heard other people say. Jennifer felt that restlessness again, that vague tightness in her chest that she couldn't explain. She wanted to ask more. She wanted to understand why Emma seemed so prepared, so careful with her clothes for the appointment, but she didn't want to seem intrusive. Jennifer has always prided herself on giving Emma space, on not being a suffocating mother, so she just kissed her daughter's forehead, told her she could go to sleep whenever she wanted, and left the room, taking with her that uncomfortable feeling that refused to go away. December arrived, bringing the intense cold characteristic of Oregon. Snow began to fall, covering the rooftops, turning Portland into a winter postcard. Jennifer finally questioned the long sleeves. It was a Saturday afternoon, and they were at home, the fireplace burning, the house warm and comfortable. Emma was changing into the shower, and Jennifer entered the room unannounced, carrying a pile of clean towels. For a split second, Jennifer saw her daughter's arm. Circular purple marks on the wrists, dark spots on the forearms, like fingers pressed tightly into delicate skin. Jennifer felt her heart race. "What's that on her arm?" she asked in a higher voice than she intended, dropping the towels on the bed and walking quickly to Emma. Emma pulled her blouse back so fast that she almost tore the fabric. He avoided his mother's gaze, fixed his eyes on the floor, and murmured in a trembling voice that they were from the exams. He said that the doctor needed to press to check the bones, to test the circulation, that it was normal, that all the children had that. Jennifer felt the world tilt slightly. She was a nurse. She knew medical procedures. She knew that no routine exam left marks like this. Bruises of that type indicated excessive pressure, unnecessary force. But at the same time, she wanted to believe. She wanted to believe that there was a reasonable explanation, that Dr. Mitchell was the respected professional that everyone said she was, that she was just exaggerating, seeing problems where none existed. "Emma, my love, this doesn't seem normal," Jennifer said softly, trying to touch her daughter's arm. But Emma pulled back, hugging herself, protecting her arms against her chest. "It's normal, Mom," Emma insisted, with an almost desperate urgency in her voice. "The doctor said it's normal. Please don't call him, please. It's going to ruin everything." "What will it ruin?" Jennifer asked, confused. But Emma was already running to the bathroom, locking the door, and Jennifer heard the shower being turned on, the noisy water drowning out any possibility of conversation. Jennifer stood there, in the empty room, holding the towels she had dropped, feeling that restlessness turn into something more solid, more disturbing. Something was wrong, deeply wrong, and she needed to find out what. The next day, a Monday, Jennifer called the clinic as soon as she arrived at the hospital before starting her shift. He asked to speak with Dr. Mitchell about the procedures performed on Emma. The receptionist Deborah answered in her usual excited voice, said that the doctor was in consultation at that moment, but that she would return the call as soon as possible. Jennifer left her number, asked for it to be urgent, and waited. He never returned. Jennifer waited all day, her cell phone always nearby, the volume turned up so she wouldn't miss the call. Nothing. At lunchtime she called again. Deborah said that the doctor was extremely busy, but that she had written down the message, that he would definitely call. Jennifer insisted, said she only needed 5 minutes, that she had a question about her daughter's exams. Deborah promised to reinforce the message, but the phone never rang. That night, after Emma had fallen asleep, Jennifer sat down at the computer and began researching. Entered pediatric exams that cause bruising, medical procedures, purple marks children, child growth assessment techniques. He spent hours reading medical articles, pediatric guidelines, forums of health professionals. He found nothing, absolutely nothing, that justified such intense and frequent marks in routine exams. The next morning before work, Jennifer reached out to Diane, her fellow nurse and friend of 10 years. They had coffee in the hospital cafeteria, and Jennifer described the marks on Emma's arm, explained about the monthly appointments, about how Emma had changed, was more closed, more cautious. Diane frowned deeply, absent-mindedly stirring the coffee with a plastic spoon. She said in a serious voice that no routine checkup should leave visible marks, that it didn't make sense, that Jennifer needed to investigate, maybe change doctors, maybe see another professional for a second opinion. Jennifer felt her stomach turn. Hearing that from another nurse, from someone with clinical experience, made it all real. It wasn't paranoia. It was not an exaggeration. There was something genuinely wrong going on. She scheduled Emma's next appointment, scheduled for 2 weeks from now, determined to be present throughout the exam. She would no longer accept being left in the waiting room. I would not accept any more vague explanations. She needed to see with her own eyes what was happening in that exam room, but what happened in the next few hours would destroy all the certainties she had. The appointment was scheduled for a Thursday morning in January. Portland was covered in snow, the streets slippery and dangerous, but Jennifer drove carefully, her hands steady on the wheel, Emma silent in the back seat. The girl was even more closed in those days. She spoke little, spent hours in her room drawing or just lying down, looking at the ceiling. Jennifer arrived at the office 15 minutes before the scheduled time. The reception was emptier than usual, just a mother with a baby waiting and an elderly man flipping through a fishing magazine. Jennifer approached the counter where Deborah was typing something on the computer. He informed, in a firm and clear voice, that he would remain in the room during Emma's care today. Deborah looked up in surprise. He blinked a few times and said that Dr. Mitchell preferred to perform the developmental exams in privacy, which was so that the children would feel comfortable without parental pressure, which was the clinic's protocol. Her voice was polite but firm, rehearsed, as if she had said that many times before. Jennifer insisted, explained that she was a nurse, that she understood medical procedures, that it would not be a problem, that she just wanted to follow. Deborah consulted something on the computer, clicked a few keys, pursed her lips slightly, and said that she was sorry but could not make exceptions, that all parents had to follow the same rules, that Dr. Mitchell took patients' privacy and comfort seriously. Jennifer felt the frustration build, but before she could argue, Emma pulled the sleeve of her blouse. "It was okay, Mummy. I'm going alone," Emma whispered in a voice so low Jennifer could barely hear. There was fear in her eyes, real fear, and something else that Jennifer couldn't identify. Shame, perhaps, or guilt. Jennifer looked at her daughter, then Deborah, and nodded reluctantly. He sat in the waiting room, picked up a magazine without looking at the cover, and waited. He watched the clock on the wall, the second hand moving slowly, each tick seeming to last an eternity. 15 minutes passed. Jennifer looked at the closed door of the exam room. 20 minutes. She began to drum her fingers on the arm of the chair. 30 minutes. Jennifer could no longer sit still. He got up, walked to the reception, asked if everything was okay. Deborah said that appointments sometimes took time, that the doctor was very thorough, that there was nothing to worry about. Jennifer went back to the chair, but her heart was racing, her chest tightened. Something was wrong. Every maternal instinct inside her screamed. She waited another 5 minutes that seemed like hours, and then stood up again, decided. He walked to the door of the examination room, a light wooden door with a metal plaque on which was written Room 2. She turned the handle. Locked inside, the door was locked. Jennifer felt panic rise up her throat. He knocked on the door, not forcefully but insistently. 3 firm beats. "Dr. Mitchell, it's all right there," she called. There was a silence on the other side, a heavy, tense silence. Then Dr. Mitchell's voice responded, firm and controlled. "We're wrapping up, Mrs. Campbell. Please wait at the reception." There was something in his voice, a coldness that wasn't present before, an authority that sounded more like menace than professionalism. Jennifer stood there, her hand still on the doorknob, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. Deborah appeared next to him, lightly touching his arm, saying in a soft but insistent voice that she needed to go back to the waiting room, that it was disrupting the service, that Dr. Mitchell knew what he was doing. Jennifer returned, but every fiber of her being was tense, alert. She couldn't sit up. He stood by the window, watching the snow fall outside without really seeing. Emma left 45 minutes later. She was pale as the snow outside, her lips colorless, holding the bag to her chest as if it were a shield. Her eyes completely avoided Jennifer's. Jennifer ran over to her, held her shoulders gently. "Emma, what happened?" she asked urgently, but Emma just shook her head, pointing to the door, wanting to leave, wanting to get out of that place. Dr. Mitchell appeared in the door of the room, his lab coat impeccable as always, but Jennifer noticed something different. He was sweating lightly, small drops on his forehead, and his hands trembled almost imperceptibly as he held the clipboard. He smiled, but the smile did not reach his eyes. He said that Emma was fine, that the development was as expected, that the next appointment would be in a month, as usual. Jennifer didn't answer. He took Emma's hand and left the office without looking back. In the car, she held her daughter's hand, which was cold, so cold that it seemed lifeless. "Emma, my love, you need to tell me what's going on," Jennifer said in a trembling voice, holding her daughter's face with both hands, forcing her to look into his eyes. Emma began to cry, silent tears running down her pale face. She whispered that she couldn't tell, that the doctor said it was a medical secret, that mothers couldn't know, that if she told it could harm the treatment, that she would get sick, that bad things would happen. Jennifer felt something break inside her. Those were not the words of an ethical doctor. They were words of manipulation, of control, of someone hiding something deeply wrong. She hugged Emma tightly, promised that nothing bad would happen, that she was there, that no one would hurt her daughter ever again. That night, after Emma finally fell asleep exhausted from crying, Jennifer sat down in the kitchen with her laptop and began a deeper investigation. He researched Dr. Stephen Mitchell beyond the basic information that any patient would find. It turned out that he had worked in Seattle before Portland, at a large children's hospital. But there was no information about the reason for the move, no mention of transfer or promotion, just a void of information between his time in Seattle and the opening of the practice in Portland. Jennifer called the Oregon Medical Board the next morning. He explained that he wanted to check the professional history of a doctor, if there were any complaints registered. The attendant consulted the system and said that there was no formal complaint against Dr. Stephen Mitchell, that his record was clean, that he had all his certifications up to date. Jennifer hung up feeling frustrated and lost. If there were no complaints, if her record was clean, how could she prove that something was wrong? Who would believe it against a doctor respected by the entire community? She talked to Diane again, who suggested contacting the police, but Jennifer was afraid. Fear that they would not believe her, fear that Emma would be interrogated and traumatized even more, fear that without concrete evidence they would simply file the case and she would be branded as the paranoid mother who falsely accused a respected doctor. Jennifer was about to give up, consider just changing doctors and never go back there when her maternal intuition screamed louder. She remembered something she had seen in a documentary about home security. Hidden cameras, recording devices. If she couldn't get into the room, if no one believed her suspicions, then she needed proof. Jennifer searched online and found mini security cameras, those small enough to be hidden, with clear audio recording. He bought one on the same day, express delivery, and 2 days later the package arrived. It was a tiny device, no bigger than a button, with the ability to record up to 6 hours of audio and video. She sewed the device inside Emma's backpack in an internal pocket, positioned so that the microphone was facing outwards, able to pick up conversations clearly. He tested it several times, recording conversations in the living room, then playing back to check the quality. The audio was perfect, every word clear and crisp. Jennifer didn't tell Emma about the camera. He didn't want the girl to get nervous, to act differently, and alert Dr. Mitchell. The next appointment was scheduled for 2 weeks away, and Jennifer waited with a mixture of dread and determination. If you're here so far, it's because this story is stirring you. What follows will show the exact moment when everything changed. Therefore, at the end of this video, we will reveal the complete outcome with details that few know. Stay with me until the end. The 2 weeks dragged on slowly. Jennifer could barely sleep. She spent her nights staring at the ceiling, imagining scenarios, mentally preparing herself for what she might discover. Emma was even more withdrawn, hardly spoke, ate less, had nightmares every night. Jennifer slept with her now, in the same bed, stroking her hair until she fell asleep, whispering promises that everything would be okay. One night, Emma murmured between dreams, confused and fragmented words. "Please, doctor, I don't want to take off my clothes again." Jennifer felt her blood freeze. He stood completely still, his heart beating so hard it hurt. He waited for Emma to wake up in the morning, and in a calm but determined voice, he asked directly, "Emma, what happens in consultations with Dr. Mitchell? What does he do to you?" Emma began to cry desperately, sobs that shook her small body. She begged not to have to explain, said that the doctor had said it was a medical secret, that mothers couldn't know because they would be worried for no reason, that everything he did was for her good, to ensure that she was growing up healthy. She said that he had explained that all doctors do that it's part of their job, that she shouldn't be ashamed. Jennifer hugged her daughter, promising that nothing was her fault, that real doctors don't ask for secrecy, that she was there to protect her. But Emma was so confused, so manipulated, that she could not clearly articulate what was happening. She was ashamed, scared, caught between the fear of contradicting the doctor and the desire to tell her mother. Jennifer decided she wouldn't wait any longer. The appointment was in 3 days, and she would have the evidence she needed. He would have something concrete to take to the authorities, to show that he was not making it up, that his suspicions were well-founded. On the morning of the appointment, Jennifer woke up early. He checked the hidden camera in Emma's backpack, assured that it was loaded, that it had enough space to record. She prepared breakfast, but neither of them managed to eat much. The air was heavy, tense, like before a storm. They drove to the office in silence. Jennifer held the steering wheel so tightly that her fingers turned white. Emma looked out the window, hugging her backpack, that pink backpack with a unicorn design that now carried the small camera that could change everything. They arrived 10 minutes before the time. The reception was more crowded today, several families waiting, children playing in the play area, the aquarium lit up with its colorful fish. Jennifer and Emma sat in chairs in the corner, away from the others. Jennifer held her daughter's hand, squeezing lightly, a gesture of silent support. When they called Emma's name, Jennifer felt her stomach turn. Emma stood up slowly, holding her backpack to her chest. Jennifer kissed his forehead, whispered that everything would be fine, and saw her daughter disappear through the door that led to the corridors of the exam rooms. And then Jennifer waited. But this time she wasn't just waiting passively. This time she would have answers. Nothing in this story happened by chance. What you are discovering here may be the missing piece to understand everything. Stay until the end, as the most surprising moment is yet to come. Filming began the moment Emma entered the exam room. Jennifer had arrived home and connected the device to the computer, with her hands shaking so much that she almost dropped the USB cable. He sat down in the office chair, put on his headphones, and clicked play. The first few seconds were just the sounds of footsteps, the dragging of the backpack being placed on the ground, Emma's breathing, light and nervous. Then Dr. Mitchell's voice came, soft as ever, that fatherly voice that Jennifer had trusted for so many months. Okay, Emma, today we're going to do that special exam I told you about. We're going to take pictures of your development, okay? You can take off your blouse and pants and just wear your panties. Jennifer felt nausea rise up her throat. His hands froze. The blood seemed to stop in his veins. She pressed pause, had to take 3 deep breaths before she could continue. He pressed play again, forcing himself to listen, forcing himself not to hang up, because she needed to know, she needed to be sure. Emma's trembling voice answered, so low that Jennifer could barely hear, "Can I leave the blouse, doctor? Please." Dr. Mitchell's answer came firm, unkindly now, without that faux softness. "Emma, we've talked about it before. I need to see if you're growing right. Your mother doesn't need to know this. It's between doctor and patient. This is confidential, remember? Medical secrets are important. Motion sounds, fabric being pulled." Emma crying softly, those choked sobs that Jennifer would recognize anywhere. Her daughters crying, trying to be brave, trying not to make noise. Jennifer pressed her hand to her mouth to keep from screaming. "That's right. Now she holds her arms like that, very firmly. As I scan, doctor." Mitchell's voice continued, and there was something in her now, something Jennifer had never heard before, a barely concealed excitement, an urgency that had nothing to do with medicine. "And don't cry, Emma. Otherwise I'll have to squeeze harder like last time. You don't want me to squeeze hard again, do you?" "No, doctor." Emma's voice was a broken whisper. "I'll keep quiet, I promise." "Good girl. Now turn your back on me. Right. Let me take a few more pictures. These are very important for your medical file. Sounds of clicks, a camera photographing. Very good, Emma. You are such a special patient, so beautiful and obedient." Jennifer turned off the recording. I couldn't hear any more. He ran to the bathroom and vomited, his whole body shaking with the force of nausea. He held onto the sink, looked at his reflection in the mirror, saw a mother who had failed, who hadn't protected her daughter, who had let that monster touch Emma for months, whole months, because she trusted, because everyone trusted, because he had a white coat and a diploma on the wall. But there was no time to unravel in guilt. Jennifer wiped her mouth, washed her face with ice water, and picked up her phone. His hands were still shaking, but his determination was solid as steel. She called the police, not the emergency number, but the police station directly. I needed to talk to someone who understood the gravity, who took it seriously. He answered an officer named Reynolds, his voice professional, but not impatient. Jennifer quickly explained, trying to keep her voice steady, saying that she had evidence of child abuse by a doctor, that she had audio recording, that her 9-year-old daughter was being victimized, that there were probably other children. Reynolds asked direct questions, jotted down information, and said that they would immediately send officers to collect the evidence, that she should remain at home and not touch the recording device, preserve the scene, preserve the evidence. But Jennifer had looked at the calendar on the fridge before calling. There was an appointment scheduled for today now, in exactly 20 minutes. Another child was going to that office. Another girl was about to enter that room with Dr. Mitchell. Jennifer couldn't wait. I couldn't let it happen again, not even again. She hung up the phone, grabbed her car keys, and ran out of the house. He didn't stop to pick up his coat. He didn't stop to lock the door. He just ran to the car and started the engine. He drove through the streets of Portland, breaking all speed limits, running yellow lights that turned red, overtaking cars, honking his horn when someone was too slow in front. 10 minutes to the clinic. His heart beat so hard that it hurt in his chest. The clinic's parking lot was full, cars occupying all the spaces. Jennifer parked in a handicapped spot. She didn't care. There was no time to look for another one. He ran to the entrance, pushed the glass door so hard that it hit the wall. Deborah stood up startled behind the counter, her eyes wide. "Where is Emma?" Jennifer screamed. But then she remembered that Emma was home. She was safe at home. It wasn't Emma who was there now. It was another child, another victim. "Where is Dr. Mitchell? Which room?" "Mrs. Campbell, you need to calm down," Deborah said in a trembling voice. But there was something in her eyes, a recognition, a fear. She knew. Somehow she knew or suspected, and she had kept quiet. Jennifer didn't wait for a response. He ran down the corridor that led to the exam rooms, reading the numbers on the doors. Room 1, empty. Room 2, the light was on, a sign of occupancy. Jennifer ran up to her, tried to turn the handle. Locked. Of course it was locked. She banged on the door with her fists, punched the wood with all the strength she had. "Dr. Mitchell, open that door now!" she screamed. And her voice echoed down the hallway, made other doors open, mothers showing up to see what that screaming was. Jennifer didn't care. "Open that door or I'll knock it down." Silence on the other side, a heavy, guilty silence. Then his voice, tense but trying to sound controlled. "Mrs. Campbell, you must get out of here immediately. I'm with a patient. This is an invasion of privacy. I'll have to call security." "Call security! Call the police!" Jennifer screamed back, and now she was crying, tears of anger and fear running down her face. "I've already called them. I know what you did to my daughter. I have proof, and you won't touch any other children." She stepped back, raised her leg, and kicked the door with the sole of her sneakers, very close to the lock, as she had seen in movies. The door shook, but did not give way. Jennifer kicked again, ignoring the pain that went up her leg. A third time, and the wooden frame cracked. A fourth time, and the lock gave way with a loud crack, the door opening violently and slamming into the inner wall. The scene in front of Jennifer confirmed her worst fears, and yet shocked her in intensity. A girl, who could not have been more than 7 or 8 years old, was standing in the center of the room, wearing only panties and a t-shirt, her arms crossed over her chest in an instinctive gesture of protection. His face was red with tears, his eyes wide with terror. "Doctor." Mitchell stood behind her, holding a large, expensive professional camera, not those simple office cameras, but a Nikon with a zoom lens, the kind used by professional photographers. Red finger marks were visible on the girl's arms, where he had held on, had squeezed. Jennifer felt the world stop for a second. Everything was crystal clear, every detail permanently etched in his memory. The look on Dr. Mitchell's face, that instant change from panic to attempted control. The girl trembling, vulnerable, scared. The camera still in his hands, the irrefutable evidence, the examination table with a pile of small folded clothes, the closet door ajar showing more photographic equipment inside. "Get away from her now," Jennifer said in a low, dangerously low voice, controlled by sheer force of will. She entered the room slowly, keeping her eyes fixed on Dr. Mitchell, as if he were a dangerous animal that could attack at any moment. "Mrs. Campbell, don't you understand?" Dr. Mitchell began, putting down the camera but not letting go, his hands clenching the handle. "This is a standard medical procedure. Photographic documentation is required to—" "Shut up," Jennifer interrupted, and there was so much venom in his voice that he actually stopped talking. "Don't say anything else. Don't say another word." She walked up to the girl, took off the sweatshirt she was wearing, and placed it on the child's shoulders, wrapping her, protecting her. "It's okay now," she whispered to the girl. "You're safe. He won't hurt you anymore." The girl clung to Jennifer, hiding her face in her chest, sobbing wildly. Jennifer held it tightly, but kept her eyes on Dr. Mitchell, who was now slowly retreating toward the back door of the room, the one that led to the service hallway, realizing that perhaps he could get away. "You're not going anywhere," Jennifer said, and her voice was steady now, no tremor. She heard sirens outside, that unmistakable sound of police cars approaching. Reynolds had sent officers, even though she had hung up and rushed off. They were coming. Dr. Mitchell listened as well. His face lost all color. It became gray as cement. He dropped the camera on the table with a heavy thud and raised his hands, as if that would help, as if gestures of surrender could erase what Jennifer had seen, what she knew, what that recording proved. "You don't understand," he repeated, but his voice was weak now, desperate. "I am a respected doctor. I have a 15-year career. Families trust me. This is a misunderstanding. That's abuse," Jennifer cut off. "This is a crime. And you will pay for every second of suffering you caused my daughter and everyone else." Other doors opened in the hallway. Deborah appeared in the doorway, pale, phone in hand. Two mothers stood behind her, staring shocked at the scene. One of them, Susan, the same one who always praised Dr. Mitchell, put her hand to her mouth, her eyes wide in horror. "My God," Susan whispered. "My daughters. He has cared for my daughters for years." Police officers rushed down the hallway, two of them in navy blue uniforms, hands on guns in their holsters, but not drawing yet. Sergeant Reynolds was close behind, a tall man with grey hair and a serious expression. He assessed the situation in a second, looked at Jennifer holding the girl, at Dr. Mitchell cornered near the table, at the abandoned camera. "Dr. Stephen Mitchell," Reynolds said in a strong and official voice, "you are being held on suspicion of child sexual abuse, production of child exploitation material, and assault. He has the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in court." One of the officers approached with handcuffs, spun Dr. Mitchell around, and pulled his arms back. The sound of handcuffs closing on his wrists was the most satisfying sound Jennifer had ever heard. "Doctor." Mitchell tried to protest, said he wanted to call his lawyer, that it was nonsense, that his reputation would be destroyed, but the officer only informed him that he could make a call at the police station. Reynolds approached Jennifer and the girl, crouching down to be at the child's eye level. "Hi, my name is Reynolds," he said in a gentle voice, totally different from the official tone he used with Dr. Mitchell. "You're safe now, okay? No one will hurt you. We'll call your mom and dad, and you'll be able to go home. But first, I need you to be very brave and answer some questions for me. Can you do that?" The girl nodded weakly, still clinging to Jennifer. A female officer appeared, introduced herself as Officer Martinez, who specializes in juvenile cases. She stayed with the girl, while Reynolds talked to Jennifer in the hallway. "You said you have a recording?" Reynolds asked in a low voice. Jennifer nodded, explained about the hidden camera in Emma's backpack, about the recording of the last appointment, about Dr. Mitchell's words, about the sounds, about everything. Reynolds asked for her address, sent officers to her home to collect the evidence properly, preserve the chain of custody. He asked about Emma, if she was at home alone. Jennifer realized with a fright that she had left Emma alone, locked in her room since she heard the recording, probably frightened by her mother's condition. "I need to go home," Jennifer said, the adrenaline starting to subside, leaving her shaky and exhausted. "My daughter needs me." Reynolds nodded, said she could go, but that she would need to come back later to give a full statement. He handed over his card, told him to call if he remembered any additional details. Jennifer picked up the card, quickly returned to the room where the girl was still with Officer Martinez, returned the child's look of gratitude with an encouraging smile, and then ran back to the car. The house was quiet when Jennifer entered. Emma was in the room, right where Jennifer had left it, sitting on the bed, hugging the pillow. When she saw her mother, her eyes filled with tears. "Mommy, where were you? I heard you crying in the bathroom, and then you ran away and I was scared." Jennifer crossed the room in 2 steps and hugged Emma so tightly that the girl let out a small sigh of surprise. "It's over," Jennifer whispered, kissing the top of her daughter's head, stroking her hair. "It's over, my love. You are safe now. Mom won't let anyone hurt you ever again. Never again." Emma began to cry. All those months of fear and confusion and shame finally overflowing. She cried in her mother's arms for hours, it seemed, though it was probably only minutes. And Jennifer held it, shook it gently, whispered words of comfort and reassurance, promised that everything would be okay, that they would get through it together. "I was so afraid to tell," Emma sobbed against Jennifer's shoulder. "I thought no one would believe me. He said that I was imagining things, that exams are always uncomfortable, that I shouldn't complain because it would worry you. He said that you already had so much to worry about being a single mother, and that I should be brave and let him do his job." Jennifer felt her anger return, hot and sharp, but she took a deep breath and focused on Emma. "I'll always believe in you, always," she said firmly, holding her daughter's face in her hands, looking straight into her eyes. "If something makes you feel bad, if someone makes you feel uncomfortable, you tell me, and I'll believe it. You don't need to protect anyone, let alone protect me. My job is to protect you, not the other way around." Emma nodded, wiping away her tears with the back of her hand. "He's going to come back?" she asked in a small, startled voice. "No," Jennifer answered with absolute certainty. "He was arrested. He will no longer come near you or any other child. It's really over." They stayed in the room for the rest of the afternoon, Jennifer calling the hospital to let them know that she wouldn't be on the night shift, that there was a family emergency. Her supervisor, knowing her for years and knowing that she never missed without a serious reason, didn't ask questions, just told her to take care of whatever she needed to take care of. If you're here, it's because this story deserves to be heard. I believe that what comes next will surprise you even more. Don't leave this video before you find out how it all ended. The following days were a whirlwind. Jennifer gave her full statement at the police station, with Emma present in a room adapted for children, colorful and less intimidating than a normal interrogation room. Emma spoke to a forensic psychologist, a kind woman named Dr. Sarah Chen, who had experience working with traumatized children. Emma told everything little by little, with pauses to breathe, with Jennifer holding her hand the whole time. Dr. Mitchell had started slowly, Emma explained in a trembling voice, speaking to the camera recording her testimony. In the first consultations, he was just kind, just talked, asked about school, about animals. Then he started saying that he needed to do special exams because she was growing, entering an important phase. He said that all doctors do this, but that it was confidential, a medical secret, that mothers are worried for nothing, and that's why it was better not to tell. He started touching her arms, saying that he was checking her muscle development. Then he asked her to take off her blouse, said she needed to see her posture, her spine, her ribs. Emma had been uncomfortable, but he explained that it was medicine, that doctors see bodies every day, that there was nothing wrong. He said that she was being childish if she felt ashamed. Gradually, the touches became longer. He started taking pictures, said it was for her medical file to follow her growth. Emma tried to complain once, said she didn't want to take off her pants, and he squeezed her arms tightly, left those marks, said she was being difficult, that if she continued like this he would have to tell her mother that she didn't cooperate with the treatment, and Jennifer might think Emma was a bad child. Emma was so afraid of disappointing her mother, so afraid of being seen as problematic, that she accepted. She accepted months of it, until she couldn't hide it anymore, until the marks were too visible, until the nightmares started, and she couldn't pretend that everything was okay anymore. Hearing that shattered Jennifer. To know that Emma had suffered for so long, that she had carried that weight alone, that she had protected her mother at her own expense, was a pain unlike anything Jennifer had ever felt. But she swallowed that pain, saved it to process later, and focused on being strong for Emma. Dr. Mitchell's investigation expanded rapidly. Police obtained a search warrant for the office and his home. They found thousands of photos, organized in folders on his computer, dated and named, with initials that matched the names of his patients. Emma was there, dozens of photos of her in various stages of undressing. But she was not alone. There were 6 other girls, all between 7 and 11 years old, all photographed in the same way, in the same exam room, with the same marks on their arms. Police identified all of them through medical records. 6 families who, like Jennifer, had trusted Dr. Mitchell completely, who never suspected anything. Reynolds called Jennifer a few days after the arrest. She asked permission to share her contact with the other families, said that maybe it was important for them to connect, to support each other. Jennifer agreed, and the next week she was sitting in a conference room at the police station with 5 other mothers, all with expressions of shock, guilt, anger, and relief mixed in. "I always thought he was so thoughtful," Susan said, holding a cup of coffee in both hands, even though she didn't drink it. "My 2 daughters were his patients, both, and I never suspected it." She began to cry. "How did I not see it? How did I let this happen?" A woman named Rachel, the mother of an 8-year-old girl, touched Susan's arm. "We didn't let it happen. He made it happen. He was a predator, and predators are experts at hiding who they really are. He built a reputation, earned our trust, used our own willingness to care for our daughters against us." Another mother, Linda, whose eyes were red from crying, asked how Jennifer had found out. Jennifer told about the signs, about the marks, about how everyone said she was exaggerating, about the hidden camera that finally gave her the evidence she needed. "You saved my daughter," Linda said in a broken voice. "If you hadn't acted when you did, my Katie had an appointment scheduled for next week. You saved her from going through what our girls went through." Jennifer shook her head, tears in her eyes. "I just wish I had acted sooner. Months before. Emma suffered for so long." "We all wish for that," Susan interrupted softly. "But you acted when you saw the signs. You trusted your gut. Many mothers ignore that little voice. They think they're being paranoid, that they don't want to cause problems. You didn't ignore it. You were brave." They formed a group, those 6 mothers, meeting weekly, supporting each other, sharing the healing process of their daughters. Some weeks were easier than others. Some weeks the girls seemed to be fine, laughing and joking as if nothing had happened. Other weeks, the nightmares returned, the crying spells, the refusal to let her mother out of sight for a minute. Emma began therapy with Dr. Sarah Chen, the forensic psychologist who had done her initial interview. Sarah specialized in childhood trauma, and Jennifer trusted her completely. The sessions were weekly, sometimes twice a week when Emma was having particularly difficult days. Sarah explained that recovery was not linear, that there would be advances and setbacks, that the important thing was for Emma to feel safe to express what she was feeling. Jennifer learned about signs of trauma, about triggers, about how to support Emma without suffocating her. She learned that asking too much about therapy sessions could make Emma feel pressured, but that leaving the door open for conversation when Emma wanted to was essential. He learned to balance protection with independence, security with confidence. 3 months after his arrest, Dr. Mitchell's trial began. He had hired an expensive lawyer from Portland who tried to argue that the photos were legitimate medical documentation, that there was a misunderstanding, that Dr. Mitchell was a respected professional being defamed. But the prosecutor, a woman named Amanda Torres, presented the audio recording that Jennifer had made. He presented the testimonies of the 7 girls, presented medical experts who confirmed that none of those procedures were standard or necessary. It also presented the most devastating finding of the investigation. Police had found messages on Dr. Mitchell's phone, exchanged with other men, discussing the photos he took, offering them in exchange for money. He wasn't just abusing these girls, he was monetizing that abuse by selling the images on dark internet forums. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours, guilty on all counts: child sexual abuse, production of child exploitation material, distribution of child pornography, assault, multiple counts for each victim. The sentence came a week later. 25 years in prison without the possibility of parole before 20 years have been served. Jennifer was in court when the sentence was read, sitting in the front row with the other 5 mothers. When the judge slammed the gavel, she felt something loosen inside her chest, a knot that had been tight for months finally loosening. Emma was not present. None of the girls were. Sarah had advised that seeing the man who hurt them could be re-traumatizing. But Jennifer promised to tell Emma as soon as she got home. And she did. He sat down with Emma in the living room, the fireplace burning because Emma still liked to snuggle by the fire, and explained that Dr. Mitchell had been found guilty, that he was going to prison for too long, that he could never work as a doctor again, that he could never go near children again. Emma asked if the other girls were okay. Jennifer said that they were all in the process of healing, just like her, that it would take time, but that they would all be fine. Emma nodded, processing, and then asked something that took Jennifer by surprise. "Mom, was it my fault? If I had told you before?" Jennifer interrupted immediately, pulling Emma into a tight embrace. "No," she said firmly. "None of this was his fault. Nothing. He was an adult, a doctor, someone who was supposed to protect you. He used the trust you had in him, manipulated you, made you believe that he had to keep it a secret. You were a child, Emma. Children are not responsible for the actions of bad adults. Never. But if I had been braver—" "You were incredibly brave," Jennifer corrected. "You endured months of this alone, trying to protect me. You were braver than any child should need to be. And now, thanks to you and the other girls who were brave enough to speak out, he can't hurt anyone anymore." Emma cried, a cry of relief this time, of liberation, and Jennifer cried with her, holding her, rocking her gently as she did when Emma was little and woke up from nightmares before nightmares were real, before they needed the courage to face real monsters. This story is not for everyone. If you are here, it is because you want to know the truth behind the facts. Are you ready for the final reveal? Jennifer discovered through the investigation details about Dr. Mitchell's past that made her even more furious. He had worked in Seattle, as she had discovered, but what she didn't know was why he had left. There were accusations, never formalized, of inappropriate behavior with minor patients. The families were silenced with financial agreements, signing confidentiality agreements, accepting money in exchange for not taking the charges to the police. The hospital in Seattle had simply let Dr. Mitchell resign quietly, worried about the institution's reputation, preferring to sweep the problem under the rug rather than face a public scandal. And so he moved to Portland, opened his own practice, and started again, because there was no public record of his previous actions, because the families had been bought off and silenced. Jennifer was enraged to hear this. Those girls in Seattle could have avoided the suffering of Emma and the other 6 if they had gone to the police, if the hospital had acted responsibly. But she also understood. She understood the fear, the shame, the desire to protect her daughters from a public and traumatic judicial process. It wasn't the fault of those families. It was the fault of a system that prioritized reputation over safety, which made it easier for predators to continue operating than for victims to get justice. Jennifer decided that needed to change. In the months following the trial, she began working with Oregon lawmakers, proposing changes to pediatric medical protocols. She worked with Susan, Rachel, Linda, and the other mothers, all of whom shared their stories, pushing for reform. The proposal was simple but crucial. All examinations of children under 13 years of age should have a parent or guardian present, or at least one additional nurse in the room. No exceptions, no excuses for privacy or patient comfort. Children need protection, not privacy from their own parents. In addition, any allegation of abuse by a medical professional should be thoroughly investigated before any confidentiality agreement is allowed. And all results, even those that do not lead to criminal prosecution, should be recorded with the state's medical board. It was a battle. Medical groups argued that this was excessive, that it undermined the autonomy of doctors, that it treated all professionals as suspects. But Jennifer and the other mothers didn't back down. They testified at legislative hearings, shared their daughters' stories, the pain and trauma that could have been avoided with stronger protections. The Emma Act, as it became known, named after Emma Campbell, who had been the first victim whose mother acted decisively, was passed in September of the following year. The governor signed it in a public ceremony, with Jennifer and Emma at his side. Emma, now 10, was nervous in front of all those cameras, but Jennifer held her hand, whispered words of encouragement, and Emma was able to smile at the photos. Before we continue, help bring real stories to those who really care. If you want to be part of this mission, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell. Portland's medical community reacted in mixed ways. Some practitioners embraced the new protections, recognizing that they were necessary, that they protected not only children, but also ethical doctors from false accusations. Others resisted, complaining about the additional bureaucracy, the extra time needed to always have a second person present. But the families were massively supportive. Mothers who took children to appointments now felt safer, knowing that there were protections in place, that their concerns were taken seriously. The office where Dr. Mitchell had worked closed permanently. The medical building on Oak Street was sold and turned into corporate offices. Nobody wanted association with that place, with those memories. Deborah, the receptionist, was questioned extensively by the police. She swore that she did not know, that she never suspected, that if she had known, she would have acted. But Jennifer remembered that look in her eyes on the day of the confrontation, that recognition, that fear. She suspected that Deborah had seen signs, small clues, and had chosen to ignore it, had chosen to believe that she was imagining things, that Dr. Mitchell was too respected to do something like that. Deborah was never criminally charged. There was no evidence that she knew concretely or actively helped. But she would carry that guilt for the rest of her life. The constant question of, what if I had spoken? What if I had investigated? Jennifer saw her once, months later, at the supermarket. Deborah recognized her, turned pale, and ran away before Jennifer could say anything. Jennifer felt no pity or anger, just emptiness. Another person whose life had been destroyed by Dr. Mitchell in a different way, but destroyed nonetheless. Emma continued therapy for more than a year. Gradually, the nightmares decreased in frequency. She started sleeping in her own room again. She no longer needed Jennifer's constant presence to feel safe. She went back to drawing animals, those colorful and detailed drawings that she loved. She went back to talking about being a veterinarian, taking care of injured animals, giving them a second chance. His relationship with his mother grew stronger, deeper. They talked about everything now, without secrets, without fear of judgment. Emma learned that she could tell Jennifer anything, and Jennifer learned to listen without judgment, to support without suffocating, to protect without restraint. It was a delicate balance, but they were finding it together. Emma made new friends at school, girls who didn't know about her past, who knew her only as Emma, the nice girl who drew well and wanted to be a veterinarian. Some of Dr. Mitchell's other victims were also at the same school, and they formed a quiet connection, a mutual understanding, but they didn't let it define them. They were survivors, not victims. They were strong, not broken. Jennifer also needed therapy. She carried heavy guilt, the feeling that she should have seen the signs sooner, that she should have protected Emma better. Her therapist, a kind man named Dr. Robert Martinez, worked with her for months to process that guilt, to understand that predators like Dr. Mitchell are experts at hiding their actions, that even trained professionals often don't see the signs. "You did exactly what a mother should do," Dr. Martinez said in one session. "You noticed something was wrong, trusted your gut, investigated despite everyone saying you were overreacting, and acted decisively to protect your daughter. You saved Emma, Jennifer, and he saved other children in the process. That's the definition of a good mother, not a mother who has failed." Gradually, Jennifer began to believe this. He began to forgive himself for the months Emma had endured, understanding that she simply had no way of knowing, that she acted as soon as she had real evidence. He began to sleep better, to smile more easily, to feel hope again about the future. The group of mothers continued to meet, even after the trial ended, even after the Emma Act was passed. They formed true friendships, bonded by a shared experience that no one else could truly understand. They supported each other through difficult birthdays, developmental milestones that brought back memories, necessary medical appointments that provoked anxiety. Susan became one of Jennifer's best friends. They had coffee together weekly, talked about their daughters, about recovery, about life beyond trauma. Susan was working with the National Child Abuse Prevention Organization, traveling to give lectures, share her daughter's story, to educate parents and professionals. Rachel had started a blog, writing about childhood trauma, recovery, warning signs that parents should watch out for. The blog had thousands of followers, mothers from all over the country sending messages of thanks, saying that Rachel's posts helped them identify suspicious situations, trust their instincts, take action. Linda was working with schools, developing educational programs for children about bodily autonomy, about consent, about the difference between good secrets and bad secrets. His program was being implemented in schools across the state of Oregon, teaching children that no one has the right to touch their bodies in a way that makes them uncomfortable, that they can and should tell trusted adults if something like this happens. All of them turned their pain into purpose, their anger into action. They did not let what happened to their daughters be just tragedy. They made it mean something. They made it create real change, real protections that would help other children, other families. And Emma, seeing her mother and the other mothers working so hard to create positive change, learned a powerful lesson. You learned that bad things happen, but that you can choose what to do next. It can choose to break or rebuild. You can choose to let the pain define you or use the pain to create something better. Jennifer never imagined that her life would turn into a protective mission that would go beyond her own daughter. What began as the desperate instinct of a mother trying to understand why her daughter was different became a movement that would change the lives of hundreds, perhaps thousands of children in Oregon and beyond. She learned that trusting that inner voice, that tightness in the chest that says something is deeply wrong, is not paranoia. It's the maternal instinct working exactly as it should, like a compass pointing to danger, even when everyone around says you're overreacting. Jennifer now lectures to groups of parents, sharing her story, teaching about warning signs that are easily ignored or rationalized. She talks about how Emma started wearing long sleeves in the summer heat, how she became more closed, how she stopped eating right, how she started locking the bathroom door. Small signs that in isolation seem normal, part of growth, but together they form a pattern that cannot be ignored. Her message is always the same and always powerful. You're not crazy when you feel that something is wrong with your child. You are not paranoid when you question a respected teacher, a trusted doctor, a beloved religious leader, a beloved family member. Predators rely on exactly that, on our reluctance to accuse, on our fear of looking ridiculous, on our tendency to trust authority figures. They build impeccable reputations specifically to gain access to victims, so that when a mother starts to be suspicious, everyone around them will tell you that she's imagining things. Jennifer teaches other mothers about the importance of open conversations with their children, about teaching them from an early age that their bodies belong only to them, that no one has the right to touch them in a way that makes them uncomfortable, not even doctors, not even with the excuse of necessary procedures. It teaches that secrets about touching should never be kept, that any adult who asks a child to keep a secret about something physical is doing something wrong, always, without exception. She sees in the eyes of the mothers in the audience that recognition, that spark of memory. Some approach later, whispering their own stories, their own suspicions that they ignored, children that showed signs but that they rationalized. Jennifer embraces each one of them, says that it is never too late to act, to ask, to investigate. Even if years have passed, even if the child is now an adult, confronting the past brings healing, it brings validation, it brings the crucial message that it wasn't their fault. The reality is grim. Studies show that 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will experience some form of abuse before the age of 18. Most abuse happens by someone the child knows and trusts, not by strangers in dark vans, but by teachers, coaches, doctors, family members, family friends, people with access, with opportunity, with the trust of parents. But there is hope too. Children who have alert parents, who feel safe to speak up, who know they will be believed, are much more likely to report abuse early, before it causes lasting damage. Jennifer turned her pain into purpose, her anger into action, her guilt into determination that no other mother should go through what she went through. And she is not alone. Susan, Rachel, Linda, and the other mothers formed a network of protection, each working in different areas, but all with the same goal: to protect children, educate parents, change systems that make abuse possible. 2 years after Dr. Mitchell's arrest, Jennifer looks at Emma and sees a girl transformed, not broken. Emma is 12 years old now, in 7th grade, still wants to be a veterinarian. She volunteers at a local animal shelter on weekends, taking care of abandoned dogs and cats, feeding them, giving them affection, helping them find homes. There is a sweetness to her that trauma has failed to destroy, a deep compassion for vulnerable creatures that needs to be protected. Emma still has difficult days. Sometimes a routine doctor's appointment, even with Jennifer present all the time, triggers memories. Her pediatrician is now a woman, Dr. Lisa Wong, recommended by Dr. Sarah Chen, Emma's therapist. Dr. Wong is patient and understanding, explains each procedure before doing it, asks permission, respects when Emma says she needs a moment to breathe. Slowly, Emma is relearning that medical professionals can be safe, that not everyone is like Dr. Mitchell. The mothers' support group remains strong. They celebrate victories together, the milestones of their daughter's recovery. When Susan's daughter went back to sleeping through the night without nightmares, they celebrated with a special dinner. All the mothers and daughters together, laughing and sharing stories, creating good memories to replace the bad ones. When Rachel's daughter got full marks on an important test, something that seemed impossible during the months when she could barely concentrate in school, they sent flowers and congratulatory cards. When Linda's daughter was finally able to talk about what happened without crying, a huge milestone in therapy, they organized a small celebration party. The Emma Law is working. There is still resistance, some doctors' offices complaining about the logistics of always having a second person present during exams, but complaints are increasingly rare. Most professionals recognize that protections are necessary and, in fact, protect them from false accusations as well. Parents feel safer, more empowered. There are a growing number of reports of suspicious situations being identified early, before they cause real harm. Because parents are present, they are watching, they are trusting their instincts. Jennifer recently received an email from a mother in Eugene, a city a few hours from Portland. The mother wrote that she had watched one of Jennifer's lectures online, who began to pay more attention to the signs her 8-year-old daughter was showing towards the gymnastics coach. He confronted the coach, demanded to be present during training, and he immediately resigned, left the city hastily. Further investigation revealed that he had a history of accusations in another state. That mother saved her daughter and probably other children in the gymnastics program because she attended a lecture, because she learned to trust her instinct, because she acted. These stories keep Jennifer motivated on the hard days, the days when the guilt still grips, the days when she wonders if she did enough fast enough. They remember that every mother she reaches, every father she educates, every child who is protected because someone paid attention, makes everything she and Emma have been through mean something other than pain. Jennifer Campbell looks at Emma today and sees a girl who survived, who is learning to trust again, who draws again those colorful animals she loved so much. The recovery process is long, full of difficult days, nightmares that still appear occasionally, moments when Emma asks if it was her fault and Jennifer has to repeat tirelessly that nothing that happened was her responsibility, never was, never will be. Weekly therapy with Dr. Sarah has helped Emma process the trauma, to understand that what Dr. Mitchell did was a crime, that real doctors don't ask for secrecy, that inappropriate touching is never part of real exams, that she did nothing to deserve or cause it. Jennifer still carries heavy guilt for the times she didn't notice, for the months Emma suffered in silence, carrying a weight that no child should carry. But her own therapist constantly reminds her that predators like Dr. Mitchell are experts at manipulation, build impeccable reputations over years, gain trust from entire communities specifically to gain access to victims. He used his position of authority, the white coat, the respectable office, the diplomas on the wall, the recommendations of other families, everything as a mask to hide a monster. Jennifer learned the most important lesson of all, the one she teaches every mother she meets. Trust the maternal instinct, that tightness in your chest, that inner voice that says something is wrong. It's not paranoia, it's protection. It's your body and your soul telling you to act. The other 6 families have formed a support group in Portland that meets monthly. Mothers who share pain, guilt, but also strength, resilience, the determination to transform tragedy into positive change. Together they testified in court, seeing Dr. Mitchell taken away in handcuffs, his head bowed, his reputation destroyed, his freedom stripped of 25 years. Together they began to rebuild the safety of their daughters, celebrating small victories, supporting each other through setbacks, reminding each other that healing is not linear, that some days will be bad, and that's okay, that the important thing is to keep moving forward, even if it's just one small step at a time. Jennifer has become a public advocate for changes to pediatric medical protocols, working tirelessly with Oregon legislators to implement mandatory parents or guardians present during all screenings of children under 13. She testified at legislative hearings, shared Emma's story with skeptical politicians, with resistant medical groups, with anyone who needed to listen. The Emma Act, as it became known, passed last September with overwhelming bipartisan support, signed by the governor at a ceremony where Jennifer and Emma were present, smiling through tears of relief and victory. Emma turned 10 in March of that year. At the small party, only close family and dear friends, without big celebrations because Emma still preferred small groups where she felt safe, she blew out the candles on the cake, decorated with drawings of dogs and cats, and made a wish. Jennifer didn't ask what, respecting the tradition that shared desires don't come true, but Emma told it anyway, looking straight into her mother's eyes with that seriousness that children sometimes have when they tell deep truths. "I wished that no girl had to go through what I went through," she said simply. Jennifer hugged her daughter with tears in her eyes, knowing that out of that tragedy was born an extraordinary courage in a child who should only worry about homework and play, not protecting other children from monsters. Jennifer and Emma's story isn't just about trauma. It's not just about pain and recovery. It's about the incomparable strength of motherly love, about the importance of believing when a child shows signs, even if subtle, even if everyone around says you're overreacting. It's about never underestimating that restlessness that tightens a mother's chest, that primal and powerful instinct that exists specifically to protect our children from danger. No matter the reputation of the professional, no matter how many families trust him, no matter how many diplomas hang on the wall, if something seems wrong with your child, investigate, question, demand answers. Don't stop until you are sure. Predators rely on our hesitation, on our fear of appearing paranoid, on our cultural tendency to trust authority figures, especially doctors, teachers, religious leaders. They use this trust as a weapon, as a gateway to vulnerable victims. But mothers who trust their instincts, who ask tough questions, who demand transparency, who don't accept vague answers or requests for secrecy, these mothers save lives, literally save their children from years of trauma. Jennifer taught Emma lessons that every child should learn, that her body belongs only to her, that no one, absolutely no one, has the right to touch her in a way that makes her uncomfortable, that she has the right to say no, even to adults, even to doctors, even to authority figures, that secrets about touching should never be kept, that any adult who asks her to keep something related to the body a secret is doing something wrong, always, without exception. And most importantly, Jennifer taught that when something bad happens, when someone violates those boundaries, it's not the victim's fault. It never was. It never will be. No matter what the abuser says, no matter how they try to manipulate or blame it. Today, 3 years after that terrible day when Jennifer stormed into the exam room and saw her daughter vulnerable and scared, Jennifer and Emma walked together, stronger, more united, knowing that they faced the worst that life could throw at them, and not only survived, but thrived. Emma is growing up to be a compassionate, strong young woman, determined to use her experience to help others. Jennifer has found purpose in pain, turned anger into meaningful action that is literally changing laws, protecting children, educating parents. Its final message to any mother watching, to any concerned father, is simple but profound. Trust your gut. If something seems wrong, it's probably wrong. Don't let fear of offending, fear of looking foolish, fear of causing trouble stop you from protecting your child. Ask the hard questions. Demand to be present during exams. Observe changes in behavior. Believe it when your child tries to tell you something, even if it's just through actions, not words. And know that if the worst happens, if you find out that your child has been hurt, it is not your failure as a parent. It is the crime of a predator, and the blame belongs to him alone. If you've come this far in this story, it's because you understand that child protection is not paranoia. It's responsibility. It's because you're the kind of person who takes action when you see injustice, who stands up for the vulnerable, who believes that every child deserves to grow up safe and secure. Help spread this message by liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and activating the bell so you don't miss the next stories that can save lives. Don't go out yet. Take the next step in this journey by watching the next video on our channel, which will appear here on the screen. In it, we will continue to discover real stories that touch the heart and strengthen our resolve to protect those we love. Every story shared is a potentially saved child, a potentially protected family, a predator potentially exposed before it causes more harm. A big hug and see you in the next exciting story.